to get you out here to school the young people, while we were, in the break, she was explaining, you were explaining,
Mm-hmm.
what that all meant. So let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like what really got you into this field?
Right. So what really was my takeoff point again is like I said, I started off just merely just helping another young lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, first of all, I've always been a nurturer. I've always been very giving, and love working with people. Um and so I began to meet these different women, and some of them got surgeries for different reasons. Some of them were
Mm-hmm.
through domestic violence issues, low self
Mm-hmm.
esteem. There was just a lot of different reasons why they got surgery. Some of them had no one to be there for them after the
Mm-hmm.
surgery.
Right.
In fact, it's a lot that does this off in the quiet by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to have someone that they can trust and that they
Right.
can confide in, and that's there with them to not only educate them but to take care of them,
Mm-hmm.
was really touching to me. So I knew within myself that it was bigger than me,
Right. Right.
and that I needed all of the knowledge um, that I can hold in my brain
Mm-hmm.
to really be that person to be there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's getting calls that, I mean, in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
They call me for everything, and I'm not in a position to turn them down. I have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, that's what kind of drew me in more and more, and I have a compassion for it. I have a love for it, um, and here I am, and I am going to continue to soar and gather knowledge. Every day things change,
Mm-hmm.
so that's my thing, to be here, because people are misled a
Right.
lot. People are
Mm-hmm.
misled. You get a lot of these bright promotions, and everything is so big and pretty, but you go to these locations and they don't know a lick about taking care of people after cosmetic surgery.
Right.
They have a lot of false titles and so forth and so on. And I just wanted to be one of those people that was legit and really knew the science behind this whole thing.
Because just like
Yeah,
anything else, we have risk
yeah,
as black
right.
people, even with getting those surgeries. I think about, Kanye West's
Mhm,
mom
mhm.
and the situation that she was in,
Yep.
and ended up dying, and there's many theories to it,
Mhm,
on how, that but I tell people, it's been times that I have wanted to do
mhm.
certain things, and I consult with my doctor, and he has said to me, no, we're going to do this another way.
Yeah, because you're going into some people experience complications or even death after
Mm-hmm.
surgery, and that's why it's very important to be upfront with your surgeon, with your doctor when you're getting when you're planning this out. Be upfront about your health. Don't hold anything back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want the doctors that's going to turn you down if your BMI is too high. You want the doctors that's, that they want a workup on you to make sure that you are absolutely healthy and ready to go through
Mm-hmm.
um, the procedure. You don't want to take any shortcuts because you're playing with your life,
Mm-hmm.
and then for those that that do make it and may have complications after surgery, um, those are the ones that I want to also speak to and let them know that, hey, it may I can understand you're down at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to follow through.
Right,
You have to
right.
get the right care. You have to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're with a wound specialist if needed.
Mm.
You have to make sure you have, you know, the right specialist in place to take care for you. And you still got to soar. You still got to rock through it. You still got to follow the rules after
Mm-hmm.
post op care. You can't just, give up and ball up and feel like it's, a waste. You have to, move through it. But yeah, you're right. Complications after surgery is at an all-time high, and you want to make sure that you are ready.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I hear some girls that want to have surgery like right after they have a baby. It's a certain time frame you have to wait.
Okay.
You can't call the surgeon and not be truthful. And I had a young girl who lost her life over in the DR behind that.
Good God
Yeah, she was
Almighty.
like only 22 years old. Um,
Mm.
yep, she needed to wait after having her baby, and she was denied by a few surgeons. And of course, she found that one and said, "Hey, yep, be here in 2 weeks."
Good
And
God.
she unfortunately lost her life. Yep. So you want to take this thing very serious, and that is before, during, and after. It is a lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lifestyle change.
Wow. This conversation was really deep for real because it's like I said, it's so many people that's being misled in that. And they need to know that they have someone that is just not looking at their money, that
Yeah.
actually cares for them, in this situation. Because like you said, it's a mental thing. It's not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if this thing don't go right, you know what I'm saying, women are going to have to deal with it, like the botch surgeries
Yep.
that a lot of some women go through, those botch surgeries. I see celebrities that have had the surgery and now they're getting the, different things removed and things.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is when Yaya and Friends LLC?
Yes, ma'am.
What does that offer?
So Yaya and Friends, I came up with that name because it's actually bigger than what it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I have manifested something behind it that I should be able to present to the world prayerfully
Mm-hmm.
someday soon. Um, but it's also for unity.
Okay.
Okay. And I just, would like to have a women's retreat, somewhere where women can come to, even, before they care, after they care,
Mm-hmm.
or what have you, just to have that peace of mind, that self care, that
Mm-hmm.
self-love time. And basically, the friends part stands for, um, like-minded people can build the empire.
Right.
Like-minded people can get it done. If you focus on the facts, and you you just you all it takes is the faith as a small as a mustard seed, and you can make anything happen.
That's the truth. That's the
So.
truth. This has been very inspiring. I want to start, have a segment
Mhm.
on how women can care
Mhm.
for themselves, like have tips available,
Yeah.
for women. I want to do that at least once a month, to educate women, to keep them up to date with what's going on. Like you said, things change a lot,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, um, to have lists of doctors,
Yeah.
available for these, women, like you said, they need someone to trust,
Yep.
when because you're altering the body.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
altering what God gives us, y'all, in these situations. So you have to take this serious. It might be beautiful after it's all said and done, but we have to start taking these things serious. You know, we were touching on the fake practitioners, the ones
Mm-hmm.
that have the aftercare programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
You have to be ask. What you do is you ask to see their license. You get a little information on their background,
Hmm.
to find out who taught them. You know how
Right.
long they've been doing, been in business, and it gives you a little feel of their education, and you find out where they went to school, and demand to see these things. Don't just go on the pretty little advertisements and titles. You want to see proof, you want to know, you have
Hmm.
the right to know they're going to work on your body. So another thing that I do with my clients is I read, again, my instructor have a book of affirmations. So
Hmm.
I read affirmations to them just to, uplift them when they come in,
Wow.
you know, um, and different things. I have different candles. I let them smell. I let them choose which one they want to burn, and
Hmm.
just different things like that. But overall, you have the duty. You have the right to know who is working on you. It's you. No one is going to research what's best for you more than you are.
Right.
Okay.
Hmm.
And if you follow timeout, I want to say timeout, body sculpting. It's on Facebook, and it's also on IG. I'll leave my Instagram, and you can send me a DM, and I'll make sure you have the correct
Hmm.
information. But you'll find a lot of different information on surgeons. Legally can't talk bad about any particular surgeon's
Hmm.
locations or surgery centers, but you'll get a lot of information as to who's good, who you
Hmm.
may can go to, or what have you. But at the end of the day, you want to do as much research as humanly possible
Right.
before you get your surgery, and before you allow anyone to touch you aftercare, because aftercare is just as important. Okay, now you're talking about your healing. Now you're talking about your sculpting.
Hmm.
Okay, you can very well be getting massage wrong, and
Right.
congest your system, and
Mm.
cause other unwarranted issues, affect your sculpting. It's a lot. I have some clients that come to me, and they don't know the difference between a stage one faja or stage two faja. They don't know when they should be in it or out it, and it's ridiculous.
And what is
If
that?
you So fajas are compression garments. All right.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
fajas are compression garments. That's essential after cosmetic surgery. It's again not an option.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. And then it's levels to it, and it's time frames when you should be in one
Do
and
you
into
offer
the other.
those at your facility?
So I do offer fajas, but I also refer them out to two different companies, because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, again, is I'm more concerned of their sculpting. So
Right.
it's however their body is presenting to me is what will determine whether what faja location I'll
Hmm.
send them to get one. But at the end of the day, like I said, for the stages of fajas, you have stage one, you have stage
Hmm.
two, and then you have stage three. There are time periods in each of these garments.
Oh,
As
okay.
Yeah, it's what I'm saying is time frames. And you don't want to be in one. Well, especially when it comes to the first one, you're in like a stage one right after surgery.
Hmm.
And I've had, in my time of doing this, I've had ladies come, and they have been in the stage one for like 3 weeks, and they're
Wow.
saying that they was told to do this or what have you,
Hmm.
but
So
essentially.
when you say stage one and
Hmm.
stage two and stage three, what you
Hmm.
mean by
Yep.
the stage one?
Okay,
So
so
is it supposed to be the garment supposed
let
to be a
me
little
yeah, let
tighter
me break it
or?
down a little bit for you, right?
Hmm.
So how I consider so stage one, let me just say this, is the lowest compression. I called it like a body shaper.
Okay.
Okay. Stage two is highest compression, higher compression, and then the stage three is highest compression.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means is yes, the tighter the garment
Okay.
is. And so it's very essential to get out of what's called the stage one
Mm-hmm.
at a particular time because again it works just like a body shaper.
Okay.
And so the what I
Mm.
give on that, the information I give on that is like if you kind of like if you're drinking a soda and your stomach wants to like blow out and you feel bloated,
Mm-hmm.
the stage one body shaper is going to go with you. It's going to do whatever your body wants to do.
Okay.
Okay. Versus the stage two
Mm-hmm.
will, make you like, okay, maybe I've had too much. It may want to go out another way or so,
Mm-hmm.
right? And essentially that is what the fluid is doing in your body after surgery.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to contain it and compress it. And it helps with the natural absorption process back into the lymphatic system after surgery.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
very important that you follow the stages
Mm-hmm.
of your fahas and that you stay in them for the time frame that you're supposed to stay in them as well.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
very
know
essential.
that. It was stages. Because,
Yeah,
like I said, I don't see it go that deep,
yeah. So
And a lot of women don't know
yeah, they don't
that.
know, and they also are not being told. But the way that I tell my clients is, I want you to know the facts and to know the truth because
Hmm.
you have to help me,
Right.
right? If I'm doing all this work and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, what I'm
Hmm.
trained to do to help you, but you're gone out of here, and now I don't know what you're eating, you're drinking, you're doing whatever you want to do, you're not wearing your faja,
Hmm.
and then by the time you come back to your appointment, it's like, wait, what's going on? Um, the first thing that the therapist will think is, wait a minute, is it something that I'm doing wrong? And it's like,
Right.
no, no,
Hmm.
what are you doing?
Right.
And if you talk to them, you'll hear different things. Oh, I took it off, I didn't wear it, I was wearing this nice dress and didn't want it to show, or it
Hmm.
was such and such birthday, so I did whatever I
Because it's
wanted to
very
do,
important to wear those
but it's
things.
very important. I mean,
Hmm.
hey, let's go back to step number one, your mentality, making sure you're mentally ready to do this.
Hmm.
It is a lifestyle change,
Right.
right? If you're mentally ready to do this and to take this on, you're going to do everything that you're supposed to do.
Hmm.
There will be a time where you can go back to being regular, if you choose. But
Hmm.
again, it's a lifestyle change. So I don't suggest you
Go back to
go
being
back to
regular.
eating
Right.
whatever you want. You want
Hmm.
to maintain a healthy diet. I mean, hey, you spend a lot of money. You've
Hmm.
underwent a very serious surgery.
Right.
So why?
Right. Right.
If
Hmm.
if you wasn't going to do everything that you're supposed to do. So I just encourage my clients
Hmm.
to you're going to spend your money, okay, fine, but if you really want to waste it, you can go out, give it out to some homeless people,
Hmm.
tear it up, throw it up in the air. I mean, because that's really what you're doing
Doing
if
right.
you're not doing
Hmm.
what you need to do to help me help you.
On the average
So
surgery, a cost of an average surgery, and I'm talking about the before
mhm.
and the aftercare of
Oh
it.
wow, yeah. So I mean, I'm hearing surgeries can get up to 20k more,
Hmm.
right? And then aftercare, um, I mean, I would say that you should at least have maybe just close to 10,000,
Hmm. For aftercare.
for aftercare. I mean, you
Because you got to
know,
get
you
garments
you
and
have to
all of
get
those
garments. You
things.
have
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that your diet has to change. You need
Hmm.
supplements, clothing, garments, clothes,
Hmm.
um, your care. your
Mhm.
body sculpting. I
Right.
mean, it's a lot that you have to endure. I mean, I don't know if you
Mhm.
need childcare, if you need some women need transportation. Like I'm a
Yeah.
travel provider.
Mhm.
So I travel to your home to care for you.
Okay.
So I get that. A lot of ladies start off with requesting travel for a while until they can, especially when they have BBLs and like tummy
Mhm.
tucks and stuff like that, until they can, become mobile again. So you
Okay.
have to pay for that. You have to pay for
Mhm.
the travel to your home to have this
Right.
done in the comfort of your own home.
Mhm.
It's gonna cost you. The therapists are traveling with equipment, and they're driving long distance, so you have to be prepared for these things. So I would definitely say factor in at least $10,000
Mhm.
just for your. I mean, if you don't spend it all, hey, what have you?
Yeah.
But I don't
You
suggest
want
that
to
you
have that.
go in this thinking that
Mhm.
it's an option. I'll get the surgery, and if I have something left over,
Mhm.
then
Right.
or I want to get a massage, but I just can't afford it. That should never be a topic.
Mhm. Right.
That should never be a
Right.
topic.
Mhm.
This is your health. This is your body sculpting.
Mhm.
This is your ideal body that you want. The reason why you got this done.
Mhm.
Just wait, save up the money, or whatever you need to do. This is not something that you rush into.
Mhm.
You carefully. It's one lady that I worked on. I really love her journey. She, first of all, she researched cosmetic surgery for a couple years,
Right. Right.
reading up on different doctors and things of the sort, and watching post-op providers and stuff, and really planned her thing out. Saved up enough money for before care and after care. You know, um, that's how you do it.
Mhm.
That's how you do it. You need.
Yeah.
Should you work out before the surgery? Oh yeah, really good question. Again, that's being
Mhm.
mentally prepared. You're
Mhm.
working out
Right.
because you are getting your body trained and
Mhm.
ready. I mean, the more healthy that you are going into your surgery, I mean, ultimately, the best.
Right.
Because you're gonna also
Mhm.
work out after your surgery. Some
After the
people think that
surgery, yeah.
no, you're gonna work out after your surgery as well,
Mhm.
to maintain. But yeah, it is highly recommended that you work out, change your diet, do all of the above before surgery, um, and you be ready to rock and roll. You take it on like a pro.
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah, and you can really see the difference in people that has prepared themselves. Their bodies are healthy, and you know you can really tell the difference after
Yes.
they get
Yeah.
get their surgeries done.
Any more questions?
Fat transfers. Mm-hmm. Um, how much do you need to eat to gain the weight to, I guess, do the transfer? Okay. So it sounds like it's they're speaking of after the fat transfer, after you get the fat transfer. So after you get the fat transfer, like we have a list of foods that you should eat to feed your fat. Um, so it's not really according to how much you eat, but it's what you eat,
Mhm.
and you still don't want to overdo it. Like, for instance, you can eat like ice cream after
Mhm.
you have a fat transfer. Does that mean eat a container of ice cream? No.
Mhm.
That means
Yeah.
eat some,
Mhm.
just to feed your fat or
Right.
what have you. So, again, if you're going to a good provider, a CSL therapist like myself,
Mhm.
you'll get you'll get a list of healthy foods that you should eat. Um, it's a lot. I thought another tip, like you have your healthiest meal before 3 p.m. I mean, excuse
Mhm.
me, your heaviest, not healthy. Sorry, sorry,
Mhm.
sorry. But your heaviest meal before 3 p.m. Right?
Wow.
Right.
Mhm.
It's just different things that you should do, and you should be informed of that by your provider after
Mhm.
surgery. Should be able to tell you everything.
Or y'all and friends,
Yeah, yeah, and
LLC.
friends, LLC.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Yes. Y'all
so,
and friends. Mhm.
yeah, yep. I'll tell you everything that you need to do to maintain that fat transfer.
Any more questions? This is good because they've been interactive today. Okay, y'all. All right. I love this. Maintenance.
Yes, of course. That's my favorite part.
Mhm.
All right, yep. So maintenance starts the 3 days after care, after your
Mhm.
surgery, when you meet your CSL therapist, excuse me,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, so you want to start off with following your routine, your appointments, following on your appointments. Again, maintaining your intake. All of this, we have what's called a woo period. So everything that you do within that time frame really matters.
Right.
And not saying that after, and that usually runs up to about 8 weeks. And that's
Mhm.
not saying after 8 weeks, then just go off and do what you want to do. But within that time frame, everything matters. Now, after the 8 weeks, now we're talking about your maintenance and your sculpting.
Okay.
Okay, your maintenance and your sculpting. You want to still continue to get body sculpting. You want to add in your exercise. You want to still wear your garment. I
How
suggest.
soon after surgery
Uh-huh.
and the body sculpting, them,
Mhm.
pushing all that extra fluid out and all of that type of stuff, how
Mhm.
soon can you start with the exercising and stuff?
Okay, so you can actually start with your exercising in between 4 to 6 weeks, right?
Okay.
But you
Mhm.
want to slowly introduce your body to
Okay.
exercising. You don't want to go full force at it.
Mhm.
Yep. And then after that 8 week time frame is when we go back to that faja. It's when you're going to
Mhm.
get into a stage 3 faja, which is the highest compression. And I do have some ladies that have like tummy tucks that just hates the faja. So then it's
Mhm.
suggested that they get into a corset, you
Okay.
know, still a level of compression. Yep, while you're doing your exercise,
Mm.
while you're maintaining your diet, while you're still going to your CSL therapist to get body sculpting, because it works. The body
Right.
sculpting, along with what you're doing, is a plus. You're
Mhm.
maximizing on your results. Definitely
Wow.
maximizing on your results.
That's why I say, y'all, this
Yeah,
was very
yeah, yeah.
important.
Because if it works for an individual who have never had surgery before, then just imagine what it's doing to you. And you had surgery. Your body is like a big piece of clay.
Mhm.
So after surgery, you should be in your faja for at least 23 hours. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, only out of it for an hour up to a particular time frame.
Mhm.
And then you can start, I want to say like up to your 8 weeks. And then you can start doing your shifts, about 12 on, 12 off type of thing. But yeah, 23 hours a day, only out of your faja for an hour.
Wow.
They do. They do.
Y'all being very interactive today, audience. I
They do.
love this. Yes. Yes. Tell people how they can get with y'all. Give us
Okay.
all of your
Mm-hmm.
social media.
Yeah.
If you have a website,
Okay.
hmm
Yes.
phone numbers.
Yes. Okay.
Hmm
So right now, my website is being created by a awesome company, and
hmm
so I'll be launching that pretty soon.
hmm
For now, you can please follow me on my IG, and that is going to be at yayas.friends. So that's going to be YAYAS dot friends. and that is on IG.
Okay.
Okay. And from there, you can send me a DM. I'm very interactive. I'll answer your questions. I like to help and get you in the right, direction. I'm here. So ask me, please. I'd rather you ask me than to not know. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can be reached at um, 571
Okay.
6249. That is my direct line.
Okay.
All right. I decided to give y'all my direct line. Okay. I do
Mm-hmm.
have a hotline, and that is 1-833 2 Yaya for you
Okay.
again.
And
But
I'm going to be
yeah.
also, I'll be posting all of this. I'll be pinning it in the live. Okay. I'll put all of that information in the live as well. All right. So, yeah, this has been a
Yep.
great conversation. I look forward to having you back soon.
Yep.
You know,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then I just want to leave you all with one thing, and that
hmm
is for all you all that is interested in maybe working in this business, please, please get the proper training. Um, and the money will come if you're properly trained and
hmm
you're really taking care of
I want
people.
you to tag
It
me,
will
get
come.
me into that too, so that I can also put your
Hmm.
where you started at.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
So
sure
that,
will.
yeah, I
Yes,
think
I
that
can
would
get.
be very important to get that information out
Yes.
there
Hmm.
because like I said, we need more great Black businesses. I think she's great. I've been following her for a very long time. Y'all know I stand on my word, okay? We ain't gonna have nobody in here where, it's gonna be some crazy stuff going on.
Hmm.
I back every person that I bring into the studio and showcase on my platform because it's very important. I'm here for y'all. And so is the people that come on this platform. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you, Rose, for having me. I really
Of course,
appreciate
of
it.
course.
Yeah.
Y'all and Friends LLC. I will have all of the information posted on the live as well as I'm going to have some clips out, okay? So we'll be back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Rose Garden Missing and Murder Podcast, hosted by none other than Black Rose. We are back. I hope y'all enjoyed the first part of the show. Like I told y'all, this is an educational show, okay? We don't just talk about the missing and murder. This is community based. We talk about everything, a slew of things that goes on in the community. And also, we showcase Black excellence in the community. And today in the studio, mm, all right, I've been stalking this man for a while. Okay.
Wow.
I've been stalking this young man for a while. I have, Chris. I've been researching because, like I said, I have a wide range audience. Okay, and they come here. They know they gonna get the real. They know they gonna get information. They're gonna get people in front of them that are doing great things because we're at a spiritual warfare right now going on with all of this violence and everything. So I like to show my people that we do have greatness.
Amen. Nice.
Okay. So in the studio, I have two-time Grammy nominated. Okay. And I'm gonna let him tell you why he was nominated for a Grammy. I know, okay, but I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Two-time Grammy nominated Mr. Christopher Bonds.
Thank you so much. I don't like to brag about myself too much. I'm cool with other people reading, stuff off. Some people, perception on certain things. But
Yeah.
yes, so I'm a songwriter and I'm a producer and artist, and I'm from this area, from Prince George's County. Grew up in Glenarden, but yes, so far 2-time Grammy nominated. One day, prayerfully, I might win a few. Producer, songwriter, and artist, hailing from this area, and I've been in the music industry professionally since 2010. So fresh out of graduate school.
All
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
I was looking at your background,
Hmm.
okay, and Mitch grew up in Mitchellville, Maryland.
Yeah.
Um, Also Charles Hubert Flowers.
Charles Herbert Flowers.
Yes,
Yeah. Shout out
okay.
to Flowers.
All right. Then work with some big names.
Yes, ma'am.
Work with some big names. Let's talk about that. Give
Sure.
them a little bit of your background and what inspired you to get into music.
Sure, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So, produced for Lettucey, Estelle, Tamia. I did some
Mm-hmm.
work for Mario real
Mm-hmm.
early. I think he was the first artist I started producing for. And then did
Wow.
some work for Chris Brown, Jeremiah, and New Edition. That was really
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah.
Let's see, Raheem Devon from our area,
Mm-hmm.
and Stokely from Mint Condition. That was probably the
Love
biggest.
him.
That
Yes.
Yeah, that was someone that I would say was actually starstruck, because growing up to him
Mm-hmm.
and just watching him with Mint, and then going solo and working on his project was really amazing. And let's see who.
Mary J.
Oh yeah, just
Blige.
recently. Yeah, almost forgot.
Yes,
It's
just recently.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
knocked out a few records for her, and this group that's been blowing up on TikTok and IG by the name of Juan Moore, which are Wanye's kids from Boys
Oh,
to Men.
Boys the Men.
Yeah, he got those four kids that
Mm-hmm.
just recently got signed to 300, and they're imprinted under Mary J. Blige's label. So it's kind of interesting how that connectivity like kind of
Wow.
happened. Mm,
Wow,
yeah.
Chris. I told y'all we got excellence in the DMV area. What inspired you to get into to get into music? Did it start with church? Some people start in
Right,
church,
right, right. Yeah, my story was a little interesting. I think it happened. Uh, I don't want to say on accident. I think it was destined to happen. But I went to the
Hmm.
Bad concert back in 1988. I was 2 years old. Michael Jackson,
Okay.
when he was at the Capitol Center event,
You
and
make me sound old.
no, but I was a baby at the time, and I was sitting on my parents' lap, and I try to tell people 2 year olds can remember certain things,
Yes,
because
they can. Yes,
that
they
was
can.
somewhat of a healthy, positive, traumatic experience, and
Hmm.
so just seeing Michael Jackson on stage and like the sounds and colors as a child, just
Right.
really inspired me, and the energy and the pandemonium at that time. And so I was like, I'm seeing this little figure jump back and forth on, in front of me, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the reason why everyone's going crazy. But I'm like, is that Michael Jackson? So that's why I think I was cognizant of who Michael Jackson was at that time, and
Mm-hmm.
so seeing him, it was just electrifying. And I think that something just happened after that experience that just continued to stay with me. And so that opened up the floodgates, I guess, as far as creativity. Because originally I
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to go to school for art, because my father, who's a fine artist, he went to was it North Carolina A&T. He's an Aggie, and so he studied art.
Okay.
So originally I was going to go that route, but
Mm-hmm.
music just was more of a powerful vehicle for me that I decided to stick with.
Wow.
So studying Michael Jackson, of course, and Prince and Stevie Wonder. So with it, like the Holy Trinity musically, and all
Mm-hmm.
those three, and
Mm-hmm.
studying people like Donny Hathaway and Bill Evans, as far
You
as
name it, all of my favorites.
yeah,
Michael Jackson was an inspiration for me too. I
yeah,
remember my first concert.
really,
Yeah, I'm 52 years old. So I remember my first concert and just that whole thing and how just even when he passed away,
hmm,
it's something that it affected me a little bit
of
because
course,
you grow up on that music.
yes,
Not only that, when I think of people like him and that music, I think about all of the fun times I had.
most definitely, most definitely,
The parties, the fish fries, where all of that music played at them
yeah,
back, cookouts and things of that nature, and just the family togetherness. And then the mood music.
hmm.
You know what I mean by mood
Mood,
music.
it affects, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
emotions and things like
yeah.
that.
Like Marvin Gaye.
Most definitely,
That movement music
yeah, yeah.
that we had back in the 60s during the March on Washington and the Civil Rights
Right,
movement and
right.
all of that.
Mhm.
Did any of that inspire you?
Yes, a lot. And also now, from what we're seeing, because like that wasn't that long ago. Like
Right.
the older I get, the more I see, I'm like, that wasn't that uh, uh, distant from us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, the Marvin Gaye, like, we came out with What's Going On, and like I actually went deeper, because I found out I have more than just a gift of music. I have a gift of curiosity. So I wanted to know that album, what was happening around that time, what's going on. And
Right.
also, like, there was response albums they had to that, to the movement
Mm-hmm.
albums, and I think Sly Stone had an album called "There's a Riot Going On."
Going on. That's
That was a
right.
response to what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
so you look at like what black people were dealing with, and I talk to my parents a lot, more now, because they're the baby boomers, and so they
Right.
saw like Martin Luther King, and all these amazing civil rights leaders, who were making the imprint, who were making history. Lives were taken tragically, but I will say that that was in a way trauma. Watching your
Mm-hmm.
black leaders, be taken away like that,
Right.
and it wasn't because of what was probably shown on TV. There was
Mm-hmm.
more to the story that is not talked about,
Right.
as far as even how Martin Luther King really died. That's
Mm-hmm.
another topic for another day. But when you think about that, like our prolific leaders, how powerful they were, it just kind of showed that when you have power, there's a target on your back.
That's right.
So now it teaches you how to maneuver a little bit differently, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone might not have to be loud and boisterous or radical.
Mm-hmm.
There's other ways of going about it. So while I see it, and it depends on the person, because everyone's different,
Right.
but that that time really inspired me as far as how to move accordingly, and
Mm-hmm.
using music as a vehicle,
Right.
to be able to get my message across, because I didn't want to be typical, of course. I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
be just another, black, musician, not understanding about business and things like that, or how to, negotiate or renegotiate contracts and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I will always just pay attention to how, like, the predecessors and the leaders, handled things,
Right.
and try to not just emulate, but understand and cultivate myself to be able to handle things,
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Seeing music today, right?
Yes.
With all of the rappers
Hmm.
that we have lost
Mm.
in, I say, the last past 5 years.
Yes.
Um, music is not the same anymore, you know, the way that it used to be. What is your feelings on that to see all of these young artists, you know, your age here that's dying,
Hmm.
you know, these tragic deaths, you know, all throughout the country?
Hurts. It
Mm-hmm.
pains. It's a like I said, it's like a repeat of history, almost like we've seen these things before, just in
Mm-hmm.
different forms. And I look at history like a circular staircase. Even though there's a new evolution, there's certain things that we saw before that just continue to circle back.
Mm-hmm.
The death of Nipsey messed with me, just as hard as it did with Tupac and Biggie. And I was a child at that time,
Right.
and Biggie messed with me so much because certain people, like, I'm starting to realize that I could, somewhat read people. There some
Mm-hmm.
people who are decent, but they're products of their environment,
That's right.
and they just want to be able to provide for themselves and take their families, from unfortunate situations to a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that a lot of this stuff is centered around jealousy and envy.
Wow.
That and which is two things I feel like the Black community we have to work on a little bit
We
more,
have to
because
work on.
we we're very powerful,
Mm-hmm.
but when people don't know their power, what do they resort to?
Right.
How do they handle certain situations? When one person is, at the forefront of things because maybe they're boisterous or maybe they just know how to communicate, you
Mm-hmm.
know, why not rally behind that person? I look at what happened with Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
He became too powerful to the
Right.
point where not only was maybe the government might have been watching him, but even your own people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Tupac talked about that in a song one time. God rest his
Yeah.
soul. He said that
Yeah.
the thing that he fears more than a white person is a Black person too. You're
Right.
our own. So there is an issue and a problem, and I do believe we need to talk about those things. And also with rap music today, it's someone said low vibrational a little bit. As much as I
Mm-hmm.
want to, and I encourage and I support a lot of the younger artists today, but I can tell that there's something lacking. There was a lack
Mm-hmm.
of training. I feel like there's a lot of artists that want to emulate what's being force fed to us on radio,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it, it, it's a thing that I feel that they're using it as a vehicle, like I said, to want to get to a better life, but there's lack of expression, there's lack of uh, just true musicality that I can't
Right.
really, there's some people out there like you have your Kendrick Lamar's, the people of my generation. You have,
Mm-hmm.
the J. Cole's, you have, yeah, the Anderson Packs, kind of like on the, vocal side, but still like
Mm-hmm.
raps and yeah, but a lot of the young ones coming up, they do need help. And I think that what I've learned from Generation X, that's really interesting. You're seeing the people that we grew up to becoming grandparents now. Your
Right.
Snoop Dogs, your
Yeah.
Master P's,
Mm-hmm.
your all them, and when you listen to them in interviews when they're talking about things, they wish that they could have reached back down and like help the young ones, which they still could now, but it's just a little
Mm-hmm.
harder
It's a little
because you're
harder.
older. And you know
Right.
how the rap game is. It's definitely
Mm-hmm.
like an
That's the
age driven
truth.
thing. So they're not going
Yeah.
to be like, oh, no, no, y'all the yesteryears and all that stuff. So what I try to do now, learn from that. And while I'm still in my 30s, and pretty young, I try to, at least help the young, teens and the 20 somethings coming
Mm-hmm.
up and show them that it's okay to be different.
Because that's what I was
You
getting
know,
ready to ask you. What would you tell a child, a young person that is getting into the music industry, that's stepping out there? Because a lot of them are misled,
yeah, they are
especially when it comes to these what you call them, music producing
producers.
company. Yeah, these
Yeah,
producers.
yeah.
You know, what would you tell a child? You know, a kid coming getting into it.
That's a great question because I have young kids that I mentor. I'll say study the people that inspired you the most,
Okay.
but not just their musical side, but also how they handle business.
Mm.
You find yourself, your favorite artist and all this stuff, and you emulate. We all go through those stages where we emulate. We try to copy. We want to be like them, but
Mhm.
what actually made them great? In music and outside. And that's why, like going back to Michael Jackson for me, who
Mhm.
still inspires, a lot of people, coming up, a lot of these younger generations. I love what he was doing musically. That inspired me to get in the music industry. All right, that was part one. But also,
Right.
how did Michael Jackson handle his business? Well, that was
Mhm.
something I had to dive deeper in. I remember something about a catalog when I was about 12 years old. I'm like, what is this catalog that they talk about that Michael Jackson
Right.
bought? I'm like,
Mhm.
did it just, consist of all this music? I thought they were like CDs that he just bought. I'm
Right.
like, maybe he just really likes music. But I
Mhm.
understood that that was like ownership of publishing,
On it. Right.
that his friend Paul McCartney was the one who kind of put him onto that when they were
Mhm.
recording what for the Off the Wall album, the Girlfriend track, and then what all the songs that him and Michael Jackson did. But Michael kept reading this book, and Paul McCartney was like, I own this song, this song, this song, this song, and Michael's eyes just got bigger and bigger. So
Mhm.
as I got through the story more, I'm like, yo, it was about ownership. I'm like, okay, so he wanted to make sure that he was his future generations were set and all that stuff, and didn't
Mhm.
have to want or need for anything. And so I was like, well, publishing is like a producer or artist's lifeline.
Right.
That takes care of you when god forbid, if you're not able to perform anymore, or if you don't want to travel or tour, or like something, you still have your publishing and your writing. So I would definitely bring the younger generation up to understand how to negotiate contracts, renegotiate contracts, how to read them, understanding the difference between having a regular lawyer and a entertainment lawyer.
Mhm.
Have both and have a solid team around you, and have look for mentorship, and also great teachers that can really pour into you and um, bring you up. And shout out to my parents, both my parents. Love y'all very much. I don't know if my mom is probably watching this. They both retired, but
Mhm.
they taught me about understanding. Like my mom would make me write these long essays,
Right.
over the weekend sometimes. And I'm like, what's this for? I'm like, we already do school and all that stuff. But it taught me how to write in different ways, how to interpret things
Right.
different way, how to receive, look back on what I'm, what I'm writing, and make sure it makes sense. And
Mhm.
it taught me how to go about certain business affairs,
Right.
on a different intellectual type of,
Mhm.
wave. So I do believe this the younger generation, they just need people to care about them, pour into them, and that's why I'm trying to do what I can as far as with my mentorship programs and things
Mhm.
like that.
What is Chris doing today?
What am I doing
Because I
today?
know it was I had reached out several times. I try to go to your Facebook and your social media pages to try to keep up
Hmm.
with what
Hmm.
to try to keep up, because I know that you don't sit still.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
that you're in and out of recording studios and
yes,
things of that nature. So that's why I waited to the best time to try to,
yeah,
and I was like, Lord, well, he's probably, you was in Philly.
yes, yes.
You just came back
Just
from
got back.
Philly.
Just got
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
So Hallmark, just the Hallmark channel, just knocking things out. Me and my team, we've been in contact with the president of Hallmark and making sure that the music lines up right. Scoring my first film with the Hallmark channel,
Wow.
and we're under NDAs right now. We can't talk about like who's in it and like, but
Mm-hmm.
when it comes out, I'll definitely let you know. But uh, just pretty much scoring, and that was a new what do you call that, like a new avenue, another
Mm-hmm.
just a whole different dynamic how I normally will work when I'm producing and when I'm songwriting. So
Right.
now when you're watching the movie with no sound or no music, it's up
Mm-hmm.
to us to have to emote on a totally different level. We have to feel what the scene is about, understand the theme, and it's
Wow.
a tedious thing. So sometimes we'll go back and be like, okay, they like this, and then the president will call and like, okay, I like this, but then I woke up this day and I might not like it. Can they change this up? You know what? I like what you
Mm-hmm.
did 3 takes ago and all that stuff. So it's constant back and forth. It's you have to definitely exercise your patience, a lot more.
Okay.
But I will say that even though it's tedious, it's probably one of the most fun, rewarding experiences I think I've had,
Wow.
in my whole life and career so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know too many people who could say that they could score a movie in their 30s. Coming from this area,
Exactly.
so
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a blessing.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. I was looking at your bio. It is very amazing. You are a very amazing young
Thank you.
man.
Thank you.
And, like I said, I know that you will inspire many children. Looking at, I'm a missing and murder advocate, right? I know a lot of people don't really take that missing thing serious until it comes tapping on your door. What is your thoughts about? Because I know you hear about it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
tragic. And I'm not a parent, but I'm an uncle. And
Mhm.
so the first
You
thing
are
that
a
I
parent.
yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah,
You are a parent.
like next to
Yeah.
that, so
Mhm.
the first thing I think about is all my nephews. I have four of them,
I'm gonna
and
stop you right there real
sure,
quick. If you live in a neighborhood and you care about the children in that neighborhood and you try to work towards making things better, you are a parent because these are our children.
all right,
I tell people all the time, don't never say you ain't got children because if you can't live in a neighborhood where there is children, you those are your children.
all right. Then I got about like 300 of them.
Yeah.
You hear that, mom?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
gets on me all the time. She's like, "When you gonna get married?" I'm like, I have a legacy.
You
Trust
have
me.
a
Already.
lot of them. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm. But definitely the my nephews, even the kids I mentor, I think about them, and the innocence of a child is just like a beautiful thing. It's just how pure they are and how they're like
Hmm.
they're like a blank slate,
Right.
and you want to pour the best things into them so they can just like they continue to evolve and grow and matriculate into beautiful pillars of society. That's what we want, especially
Hmm.
in the Black community. So when I hear things like that, it frustrates me. I think of the support,
Hmm.
and who the child is connected to, as far as who the parents are, who's the village,
Right.
and how close and near we watching after the kids. I used to always think my parents were just being overbearing when I was growing up. My mom was like,
Hmm.
I'll go with you in the bathroom. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I'm like, no, no. But as I've got older,
Right.
I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, there are
Hmm.
like like sick people out here. You just don't know
Yes.
where people's minds, their spirits, or where their
Hmm.
hearts are at. There's a lot of broken, hurt people. There's people who just need help, need a
Right.
lot of help. So I, definitely advocate for the safety and the protection of children. And it does bring out a different side of me. Like when you it kind of you get into a space where you want to defend a child. I've learned
Hmm.
different sides of myself. I'm like, oh my god, I'm very, territorial.
Right.
I'm very dominant when it comes to like the protection of
Of
children
his
and things like
children.
that.
Yeah.
So that's where I am, with that. So the first people that I think or children is just my nephews, and making sure that they're safe. And so when I see things like that, automatically your empathy is on a whole different level, now.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear that from a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's like one of those things. Because I ask anybody that I interview
Hmm.
that questions what is their thoughts when it comes to missing person.
Hmm.
You know, it's important for everybody to be involved. Not just wait until that situation happens.
Right. Right.
Okay, first of all, don't think that it can't happen. A
100%.
lot of people think that it can't happen to them, or you know um we do everything. It's people out here that experience that who have not did anything wrong to anybody.
Hmm.
So I tell people no one is exempt
100%.
from that happening, too. um Give us all of your information, how we can reach out to, you have a mentoring program
Oh, in the works and getting
in
things
the
together.
works.
Yes, yes. But as far as being able to find me on social media handles, Christopher Barnes. You'll see a little light skinned person with a peach suit. So that's me. And then my Instagram, TikTok handles, Prince Chris, Princ number three Chris, on both of those. And yeah, that's pretty much that.
Mr. Christopher Barnes, y'all check him out. He's going to come back, okay? I'm praying, okay? If I can catch him sitting still and not doing anything, y'all, this is where greatness come. Like, I need for y'all to understand this is for y'all children. Anything is possible, okay? Understand that there is hope out there. You have people like this young man, you know, DMV raised, okay, born and raised, all right, two-time Grammy nominated. All right. Anything is possible.
Amen.
I want to thank you so much, Chris, for
Thank you.
just giving me some
Of
time.
course. Of course.
I would love to have you to come back. Black History Month is next month.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Dope, dope. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be back.
Yeah, we're going to be exploring Black music
Yeah.
on Black Rose Garden with our
Nice.
first guest. February the 7th will be the legendary. We were going to be talking about the story of Betty Wright with her daughter.
Oh, snap.
Will be in the studio. All
Nice.
right. First show for Black History Month.
Nice.
All right.
Love it.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with our third segment with attorney Tanya Sweat. We're going to be talking about wrongful death. We're going to get into the case of Jalen Jones. We're just going to talk about a few things in that. I talked to his mom today. I'm going to have her on the line as well. Okay. Love y'all. See you after the break. We are back, y'all. Like I told y'all, today's show was gonna be fire, okay? But on a serious note, okay, y'all. First of all, I want to start off with these numbers of gun violence incidents in America right now. 2,800 people have been murdered due to gun violence in these first 24 days, okay, of the new year. All right. Today, I want to send my love out to Alexis Jones, Alexis McDaniels, the mother of Jalen Jones. Today is his 1 year anniversary. Um, January the 24th, 2022. Jalen was found on this day, Montgomery County. He had been murdered, stabbed over 100 times, beat to death. Okay. And I just want to send love out to his mom. Keep the prayers coming in. She just got out of the hospital. We're going to have her as well. I suppose I had her call. Then I'm gonna have to get the number over to her so that she can be able to call in. But in the studio right now, I have attorney Tanya Slats.
Happy New Year, family.
Happy New Year's.
Took me a minute to get back, but I've been busy,
I know
busy
you have.
working on so much stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm back. I'm back.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I hear we got some heavy stuff to talk about today.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes. I've been waiting to have this conversation with you. Today's topic is wrongful
Mm,
deaths.
mm,
You know, one thing, starting my advocacy, I wanted to have a umbrella, right, with different resources
right,
up under it.
right.
Dealing with these cases in the missing and murder community, I get a lot of families reaching out and they want to know how to, if it's possible to file a wrongful death case. What is the qualifications? I think that's the word I want to use. What qualifies a wrongful death? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
I got you.
So I thought that it would be,
Good discussion.
yeah.
Heavy discussion. But
Mm-hmm.
and y'all know me, I'm gonna keep it real with you.
Yeah.
Death is a natural part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, my Bible says, as sure as you're born, you're gonna die.
Right.
The problem comes in for many of us is that we feel the death of our loved one is untimely,
Mm-hmm.
or it's tragic,
Oh, it's tragic. Yeah.
or it was caused by the wrongdoing, or in legal terms, the negligence of someone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the result of criminal activity.
Right.
And I always tell people, when we start talking about lawsuits and criminal actions and putting people in jail, it's not really for the person who's gone, because they're
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Right.
Physically, they're no longer with us.
Right.
The justice that we talk about is for the living,
Mm-hmm.
those who are left behind to grieve the loss of that life.
Right.
And it happens in a couple of ways. We know about the criminal system.
Mm-hmm.
Police come in, do an arrest, prosecutors do their job, send people to jail.
Right.
that's justice in a criminal sense,
In a
because it
criminal
is
sense.
it's illegal to take a life.
Right, right.
It's a crime to take a life.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a civil remedy, or a tort, as we call it
Right.
under the law.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about wrongful death actions, and there's some requirements that have to be met. But I have to warn y'all, there are also some defenses
Mm.
that will negate a family or a beneficiary's right to claim anything.
Mm.
And
So
the
what do you mean by that?
the
Mm-hmm.
defenses, and I want you to understand it. This defense applies in the state of Maryland, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Virginia.
Wow.
It's called contributory negligence.
Okay.
So if the deceased did anything to contribute to his or her own death, there's no recovery.
It's no
No
recovery.
recovery. You get zero,
Wow.
nothing.
Mm-mm-mm.
So what that means is, if I commit a crime and the cops shoot me as I'm running away from them
Mm-hmm.
and I die,
Mm-hmm.
you may not recover from the state, whether it's in DC, whether it's in Maryland, or whether it's in Virginia.
So if you running away from the cops
If
and they
I'm
shoot,
running away from the scene of a
oh,
crime and the cops shoot me in DC, Maryland, Virginia, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a dime,
oh my
because
God.
all the government has to show, and this standard is less than the standard for putting me in jail. Because in order
Mm.
to put me in jail, to take away my personal freedom, you've got to prove beyond a reasonable
Double
doubt
doubt.
that I committed a crime.
Mm-mm-mm.
But in civil court, the standard is lower. It's called a preponderance of the evidence. So if 51%, in some instances, I tell people, if 50.01% of the evidence says I did something to contribute to my own death, my family doesn't get a penny.
Good God Almighty. That's why a lot of these cases that you see when the police is involved, they don't make it.
There's no
There's no
recovery. There's
recovery.
no recovery.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the people who now ride illegally on our streets on the ATVs
Mm-hmm.
and the unlicensed motorcycles,
Right.
or the motorized bicycles, the
Mm-hmm.
four-wheelers. Those are not legal vehicles to ride on the street. And everybody takes advantage of the fact that the police have a no chase policy in place,
Mm.
not necessarily because the police wanted that, but because the elected officials said, we're not going to chase these people. They stopped chasing it because you crash, you die.
Right.
Let's just keep this real. Let's just keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
You crash, you die. Most
Right.
of the time they're riding, they don't have a helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
There are no walls, so there's no rollover bar. There's no case to protect you riding on these vehicles. So you lose control, you crash. I say 8 times out of 10, you're not going to survive.
Right.
And what was happening was the families of these individuals were suing. And in many
Mm.
cases, even though taking it to trial and proving that the person was negligent because they were riding an illegal vehicle on the street,
Mm-hmm.
they get no recovery. But in many cases, the government would settle.
Oh, okay.
And government got tired of settling.
Mm-hmm.
So the government said, look, this is costing us too much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, the only reason why the government settled is just because PR,
Right.
publicity, it
Yeah,
just looks
right.
bad.
Mm-hmm. It looks
It just
bad.
looks bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just settle this case and be done with it, versus
Mm-hmm.
taking it to court, knowing that the law says this person, if they contributed to their death, family gets no recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's gonna look bad because the case is public. The
Right.
media gonna be there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
gonna look bad. So instead of settling now and giving away all these tax dollars to families where their children, brothers,
Mhm.
sisters, cousins, uncles out here riding these illegal vehicles,
Mhm.
we'll just tell the police, don't chase them. Just let it be.
Just let it be.
Because we don't want to deal with the lawsuit. We
Mhm.
just don't want that publicity on the government.
Right.
But when you look at those cases, the fact number one that you got a person riding a vehicle on the street that's not licensed to be there, a vehicle that's not should not be on the roadways to begin
And
with.
do you see how some of them ride these
I was,
things?
and that was going to be my next thing.
Mhm.
You bring into court how they were riding the vehicle
Right.
to cause the police to want to stop them or intervene.
Mhm.
All of that's negligence on the part of the person riding,
Riding. Right.
not the police. The
Mhm.
problem is when the police starts to chase them, they get reckless.
That's right.
They go from negligence to recklessness
To
because they
recklessness.
start cutting through people's yards. They
Right.
start cutting through alleys. They're not paying attention to the legal traffic that's on the road. And
Mhm.
so before you know it, now you've got somebody who's either crashed into a car, they've turned that darn thing over on their head, they've run into a sign, a fence, a wall, and now they're gone. And the plaintiff's bar is what we call lawyers who represent those who sue. The plaintiff's bar would argue that the police were better trained at
Mhm.
driving. The police should be more wiser, or they should be
Mhm.
wiser. They should be more reasonable. They have better
Right.
judgment. And so all of those arguments come out, which then inflames or enrages the community.
Mhm. Mhm.
And those who are elected to serve, who are they elected by? The community.
The community. Right.
They
Mhm.
want to continue to keep the community support. So when voting time comes again, they can still get them votes. So what are we going to do? We're going to settle this thing out of court.
Mhm.
We're just going to settle
We're gonna settle it and be
it. And
done with
so
it.
we done settled enough of these. I don't have the data in front of me to tell you how many dollars taxpayers, because this,
Mhm.
y'all, this ain't private money. This tax
This is
dollars
tax dollars.
that we
Right.
paid out. And I will tell you, there are multi hundreds of millions
Good God
of tax
Almighty.
dollars that have been paid out to families who've lost loved ones because of their negligence on these illegal vehicles on the roads.
Mhm.
Government said enough of that. That money should be going to social services. That money should
Right.
be going to education. That money needs to
Mhm.
go to infrastructure.
That's right.
So we basically gonna just let y'all break the law. And
Mhm.
we just gonna turn a blind eye and a deaf ear.
Mhm.
Well, I can't tell you that that's a good thing because now people are frustrated because they stop in the traffic
Right.
on the beltway.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
popping wheelies in the
In the
neighborhood
middle of the
and
street.
you can't get
Mhm.
home.
Yeah.
They popping the wheelies and you out there walking your dog and now you
Mhm.
afraid they're gonna run into you.
Yeah.
So that causes another
Hysteria.
exactly.
Mhm. That's right.
But it all revolves around this whole wrongful death thing.
Mhm. Mm.
We don't expect our loved ones to die riding an ATV. We don't expect our children to die in the classrooms
Right.
of the schoolhouse. We don't
Mhm.
expect our 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 11, 13, 17-year-old babies to die in school.
Mhm.
So, in that instance, when a death occurs and is not natural,
That's right.
it's not due to an illness or a sickness,
Mhm.
but it's due to somebody else's wrongful
Wrongful
behavior,
behavior. Mhm.
we call it a wrongful death.
Okay.
And the law gives you the right to sue. You need to understand that if you're going to sue, you have to do it within 3 years of the date of death.
Okay.
There's a statute of limitations. This thing
Mhm.
don't run forever. You don't have
Okay.
20 years to figure it out. You got three
Mhm.
years.
3 years.
And in Maryland, if you're suing a governmental entity because of someone's death,
Mhm.
so if it's at the hands of the police, they
Right.
work for a government agency. That agency is responsible, not the individual police officer, unless you can show that the police officer was so reckless in carrying out his duties that he
Mhm.
should be held personally responsible.
Right.
But the majority of the time, you're going to be suing the county, the
Mhm.
municipality, or the state
Okay.
that that officer works for. Under Maryland law, you have to notify the government agency in writing within a year, 1 year,
Mm.
that you intend to sue, because that then gives the government the right to settle with you
Right.
before you
Before you
file
file.
in court.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, in federal court, federal judges have said we understand that that's state law.
Mm-hmm.
However, the federal courts are not as strict about that 1 year rule,
Mm-hmm.
because they say the governmental entity should be on notice
Right.
that the
Right.
lawsuit may come.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you haven't formally asked them for compensation, they have the opportunity to initiate those discussions.
Okay.
So if a governmental agency is on notice that a lawsuit might come from
Mm-hmm.
its behavior or the behavior of its employees, federal courts may let you get away with not filing that notice within that first
Mm-hmm.
year. But for state court, they're going to demand you do it.
They're gonna demand you do
So you
it.
have to file that notice within the first year against the government agency. Then you have 2 additional years to file in court if that's what you want to do. If
Mm-hmm.
you're suing a private person, that 1 year doesn't count.
Right.
You just got to sue that
You gotta
person
sue that person.
within that 3 year window.
Mm-hmm.
So that would apply to a car accident where a person, two private individuals have a car accident
Mm-hmm.
and one of the people in that car accident die.
Okay.
You may be able to hold the driver of that other vehicle that caused the death liable, hold them accountable
Okay.
or responsible. Doesn't bring your life back, but you
Right.
get the money for that life.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would have to sue that person within 3 years. And
Okay.
understand, in a car accident, because state law requires you have auto insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know everybody don't follow the law. But for those of us who have auto insurance, if you're sued for a wrongful death because of the accident, your
Mm.
insurance company will
Right.
then cover you and provide an attorney for you, because your
Mm-hmm.
insurance company, depending upon your coverage, whether it's comprehensive or collision,
Right.
has provisions in there to provide an attorney for you. But I always tell people the attorneys are really working for the insurance company, because that's who's going to have to pay the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So in some instances, depending upon how bad the accident is, it may be worth it to hire your own attorney,
Right.
because the insurance is only going to pay up to the limits. And most insurance policies only cover you up to the limits required by state law.
Mm.
Anything over that, you coming out of your pocket, because they're suing you as a person,
As a person.
and they can get to your house, your
Mm.
car, everything you own to settle that judgment. So be careful out here. I mean, I personally know people who have, in car accidents, killed somebody. It wasn't intentional.
Right.
Wasn't intentional. But it happens. It's an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And while criminally they can't go to jail for it because it
Mm-hmm.
was an accident,
Right.
it didn't rise to the level of a crime. Civilly, you can still be held accountable
Accountable.
for that
Right.
person's death.
Mm.
Um, Gang warfare, all these shootings we got going on right
Mm-hmm.
now. The person who pulls the trigger, and not just the person who pulls the trigger on that gun, anybody in that group
And that group can be held
that
accountable.
participated, yes, in the plan to do the
Wow.
killing.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
yes. Anybody who we use, used to hear the word colluded a lot, or
Mm-hmm.
conspired. And
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy doesn't really transfer over into civil law. That's a
Right.
criminal issue. But if a group of people plan a murder,
Mm.
then the group of people are jointly and severably responsible for that murder.
Wow.
Yes.
A lot of people that I didn't know
You don't
that.
understand that? Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Under civil law, there's this thing called joint and several liability, which means you and I plan a murder together and we
Mm-hmm.
kill Monroe. You're
Mm-hmm.
responsible for Monroe's death. I'm responsible
Responsible
for
for it.
Monroe's death.
Mm-hmm.
And we are responsible
Responsible
for
for it.
Monroe's death.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So under
Right.
civil law, Monroe's family could sue both of
sue us.
us, one of us, or
Mhm.
either of us.
Or either of
It's their
us.
choice.
Mhm. Wow.
And I always tell people, can I sue for this? You can sue for just about damn near anything.
Mhm.
But the kicker is this: one, can you prove it?
Right.
And two, will you ever recover the damage?
Damage. Right.
So I always advise those who contact me about suing for wrongful death, who
Mhm.
you suing? Because if you're suing Rose and me, you ain't gonna get much.
Right. Right. Exactly. Right. Because you have to let them. Because sometimes, they just be doing that for nothing, wasting all that money. Okay, to
Look,
file these things,
right,
and then you ain't gonna get a
right.
dime. You ain't
Look,
gonna get the court call.
I used to tell people,
Not messing with me anyway.
right,
Okay.
exactly. I was gonna say I used to tell people I was broke as a joke. I can't tell
Mhm.
that lie no more. So I'll say, well, if you sue Rose, you might not get nothing. You might get
Mhm.
a little something if you sue me, but I ain't trying to kill nobody.
Mhm.
So yeah, be careful who you suing. So if you
Right.
out here suing a teenage gangbanger and he don't own a house because he's living in mama's basement on the couch,
Mhm. Yeah.
he stole the gun he used to shoot your child.
Mhm. Right.
He
Right.
he barely bought the jeans he got hanging off his behind.
Mhm.
You ain't gonna get
You
nothing.
ain't gonna get nothing.
So most lawyers will not even take your case because you
Right.
can't even pay the lawyer.
That's why a lot of these lawyers are not taking a
They
lot of
won't
these
take them
cases.
because we know when you come in the door who you
Mhm.
suing. And I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna be straight up with you. Lawyers go for the deep pockets because we
Mhm.
won't get paid.
Right.
We
Mhm.
got the mortgage at the house to pay, and
Mhm.
most of us got the rent at the office to pay.
Right. Right. Exactly. Mhm.
And the income taxes because we
Right.
work for ourselves. So
Mhm.
it does us no good to go through the exercise of suing somebody. Yeah, you're gonna win, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna get a check.
You're not gonna get a check.
And if you
Exactly.
don't get the
All of
check,
that work for
I don't
nothing.
get the check. And
Mhm.
yeah, and the IRS don't care that I just did a wrongful death case for pro bono. Whoop de
Right.
doo, whoop de doo. So
Mhm.
that's why a lot of lawyers they're not gonna take the case unless they know they see dollars and it's pretty clear they're gonna get paid.
Mhm. We just had a situation with a 13-year-old
Yes, yes,
that was murdered in DC,
yeah.
shot to death. And it was a situation where a man, a resident,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that lived in a neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
caught him breaking into the cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have people that is really pissed off about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We have people because the police department don't want to tell us, who this man is and
Right,
where he live at and all of that stuff. You have people that's a little pissed off.
right.
Right now, we don't know how this is going to go because the police is still doing their job
Mm-hmm.
on trying to figure out how this happened.
Right.
But this man, from what I know, this man was a registered gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Licensed to have that gun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, in a situation like that,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm hearing wrongful deaths come out of that
Right.
situation, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it. And I'm gonna give a disclaimer. We're talking hypothetically,
Hypothetically, y'all.
based upon actual facts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to do this from a hypothetical sense because I don't know all
All of
the
the
facts.
facts. Mm-hmm. That's right.
I am not privy to what the police have uncovered or discovered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't
So,
know. None of us know that yet because
so
they still investigate.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So, and thank God the young man's family not sitting here. So, ain't no legal advice being given. So
Mm-hmm.
technically, and no legal advice being given. But this is all hypothetically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
based upon what we know from what's been shared in the media.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 13-year-old who was out at 3 a.m. in the morning
Mm-hmm.
with a group of other teenagers.
Right.
There's been reports that they were actually riding around in a stolen vehicle.
Vehicle. Right. Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
allegation that not just the 13-year-old, but other teenagers were messing with cars
Mm.
in that neighborhood. And the gentleman came outside to see what was going on.
Mhm.
And because there had been a rash of carjackings,
Mhm.
thefts,
Thefts. Yeah.
and other crimes involving cars, he shot out in
Mhm.
the air and hit the 13-year-old.
Oh, so he didn't just
I,
point the gun
there
at
is
this
no,
boy.
there's no evidence that he aimed at that 13-year-old.
Okay, see y'all. See what you learn on Black Rose Garden Community Radio.
No,
See what you learn.
I've not
Cause see,
heard
we ain't even talk, but see,
right
they never even said like
that right
we don't read. We
and
don't read. They
right
can't, we don't read. We just jump to the
exactly.
conclusions.
And this is a thing I tell people you have to understand about the law. Logical deduction doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Jurors, when we go into court and you hear judges give jurors their instructions, members of a jury are allowed to use their quote unquote common sense and
Mm-hmm.
life experience as they're making decisions
As
on
they make a
cases.
decision.
However, they must render a verdict, whether it's a criminal or civil verdict, based upon the evidence.
Mm.
When we in the court of public opinion, I'm gonna say it that way, we have a tendency to render a judgment based upon filling in the facts,
Filling in the facts.
speculation,
Mm-hmm.
based upon logical deduction,
Mm-hmm.
based upon reasonable conclusions.
Conclusions. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work in the law.
Okay.
You got to have proof.
You gotta have proof.
And what I have not heard from the police in their press conferences, nor have I heard it anywhere else in the media,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't target that 13-year-old
He
boy.
did not target that 13-year-old boy. Yeah. Yeah.
He shot the gun
Mm-hmm.
and the teenagers ran. The 13-year-old just happened to get hit.
Right.
And unfortunately, the bullet that young man took was lethal.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't no situation. Cause see, that's what I'm saying. That's why we need to get clear understanding about these situations before we just go off the handle and start throwing up racial stuff. Because when this first happened, they had a picture of this young man and they had a white man's picture. So it took it off of the
Off the
fact
rails.
that a child had been murdered in this situation and turned it into a racial thing.
Yes.
Okay. So then once they found out it was a black man who did it and he was a government worker, everybody and their mama want to know where this man live at. When is they going to fire? Is they going to fire him? They wanted the outcome of the situation to happen right then and there.
I mean,
like an arrest, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the press conference that Mayor Bowser did.
Mm-hmm.
And she was even asked if she knew the gentleman.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now we're trying to insinuate that he is a political cover up.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we going here?
Yeah.
Why are we going here? And she had to say he works for the government, but I don't know him
She
personally.
don't know him. Yeah. Because
like,
they tried to say he worked for the water company.
Yeah, I was
He
like,
worked for
wow.
the city,
Right.
the street cleaner. They tried to say public works.
Yes.
They tried to say a lot of things, but it put a target on
his back. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It put a target on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not upset with the police for not releasing his name.
Me neither. Mm-hmm.
If it gets to that point, then he will be identified.
Right.
If he is formally charged with some type of murder or homicide, they're going to have to release his name because criminal charges of an adult are public record.
Right.
So he can't hide forever if ultimately there's some criminal charges that come out of this. I personally agree with not releasing his name at this moment in time because the community is so passionate about this incident.
Mm-hmm.
And
with all of the people
tension is
murdered.
high.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the tension is high. There's anger out there. My concern now is for the safety of the gentleman.
Right.
And people would say, well, why would you protect a criminal? He's
Mm-hmm.
not a criminal.
He's not a criminal. Exactly.
Under the Constitution, we are
Mm-hmm.
all innocent until
Proven
proven
guilty.
guilty.
That's right,
And
Tanya.
what I need everyone to understand is there are still legal defenses for killing someone.
Mm-hmm.
The castle doctrine still exists. The castle doctrine says if someone comes into your home and poses a threat and you kill them, you're not guilty of murder.
You're not guilty of murder.
Now, I understand this didn't happen in the man's house, it was on the street. But
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You can still kill someone when you're defending your
When you're
property.
defending your property.
It is
Mm.
still excusable murder if you are in the process of defending your property and you kill someone.
Is it like that in DC?
Yes.
Wow.
It is still
Okay.
excusable murder if someone comes in here and attacks you and I kill them
Mm-hmm.
protecting you.
Mm-hmm.
It is
It's
excusable.
excusable murder.
Depending upon the circumstances, I could be found out not guilty of a murder in protecting another person. So there are still legal excuses that say while we don't encourage or advocate for homicides,
Mm-hmm. Right.
we will excuse a person for doing so because
Mm-mm.
the facts and the circumstances were so extreme, there was really no other way out.
No other way out.
Self defense is still on the books,
It's on the books. Y'all
it's
hear
still
that?
legal.
Mm-hmm.
It's still an excuse, a legal excuse for taking another life to protect your own.
To protect your own.
So until we know all the facts, and in this instance, until the DC prosecutors have the opportunity to present the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury passes an indictment saying
Mm-hmm.
that the gentleman should be charged and tried, I don't have a problem with them protecting his identity.
That's right.
Because what we may find is when they release his name, somebody may go to this man's house and kill him
Yeah. And
in
see, they're already
retaliation.
saying that. They already saying that people are riding through the neighborhoods looking for trying to figure
That's
out who
not what
he is
we
and
want.
everything. Right.
I understand. I heard the gentleman in the town hall meeting when he said this is a child's life and we cannot put a child's life second to someone's property.
Mm-hmm.
But I need the community to understand that there's still rights and laws and on the books
Mm-hmm.
that will be enforced.
And my thing is, this is my thing. Who is going to be held accountable?
Right,
That's my thing.
right,
Who is going to
right.
be held accountable for these different situations? Now, let's turn this shit around. Suppose it would have been that man laid out there dead.
Right, right. That
Who would
13, if it was a 13-year-old, if the situation was absolutely reversed and that
mm-hmm,
13-year-old pulled the trigger, then yes, that 13-year-old would have been arrested.
mm-hmm.
That 13-year-old would have been prosecuted.
Or maybe.
And no, ain't no maybes about it.
Mm-hmm.
But let me blow your mind.
Mm-hmm.
If it was the 13-year-old, we wouldn't know his name or identity either.
We would not know his
Because
name or identity either.
if you're not charged as an
Mm-hmm.
adult and under the law, a child cannot be charged as an adult until the minimum age of 16.
Mm-mm-mm.
So we would not know the 13-year-old's identity or his name at this point if he had been the perpetrator. We would never know. He's 13.
He's 13. That's right.
He would have been prosecuted under the juvenile justice system.
Mm-mm-mm.
He might have been given some term of imprisonment, but at the age of 18, he walks out.
He walks out. Mm-hmm.
He might have been put on probation for a few years after 18,
Yeah.
but because of the maturity level of children, we treat
Mm-hmm.
them differently in the criminal justice system. So if the facts were reversed,
Mm-hmm.
the 13-year-old will get the same protections that we're now giving the adult.
That you now give
And
my dog.
and what's worse is those protections would remain in place forever. Forever. Forever.
Mm-hmm.
There are children who have committed murders, served their time in a juvenile detention facility,
Right. And got
walked
out.
out at 18,
Mm-hmm.
Those records are sealed.
They are sealed. Good God
Those
Almighty.
records are sealed.
Jesus Christ.
And if the person doesn't tell you I murdered somebody as a child,
You would never know.
the law will never tell you.
They would never tell you. Good God Almighty.
That's the law of the land.
That's the law.
Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, that's how it works. And we do that to protect not just the victims, but we also have to protect, in some instances, the perpetrators, either because of their age and maturity level or for other reasons, to protect their own safety until we have no need to protect their safety anymore. And I'm going to really trip you out, because if the gentleman is indicted and he does go to trial, he going to go to trial with some of the best security known to man. Because we're not going to let anybody else kill him
Right.
as we try to prosecute him.
Right.
Because that's not how we do things in this country. So even when they release his name, when he is arrested,
When he's arrested,
he going to be under armed guard.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he goes to trial, armed guards. Courthouse is going to be heavily protected. Because we do not believe in vigilante justice in this country.
That's right.
That's not how we do
That's
things.
right. That's not how we do things. Jesus Christ. Yeah, because I was looking at that and I'm like, we just had the two young girls who did the carjacking on the Uber driver and they didn't do a damn day in prison.
Nope.
But my thing is, Attorney Sweat, who will be held accountable? Now, in St. Louis, they have the truancy thing. Okay, because see, I used to make sure, because, I spent 15 years in St. Louis. And one thing's for certain, two things for sure. I made sure them kids went to school. You want to know why? Because if I didn't, my black ass was going to jail. You was going to truancy court. You got to sit in court. And if your child missed, so many days, you can go to jail behind that. I know people that have went to jail because their kids ain't go to school.
The general number is 10. Now, let me blow your mind. Maryland took that law off the books a few years back.
They took the truancy law, so that's why we got all of these kids dumb as doorknobs running around here. Don't want to go to school. They ain't getting chased down because they used to come and find us back in the day when, what I'm saying? They used to come, because, because when you had to go to school, because when you in school, that month, that's money.
Yeah.
Per child. You know what I'm saying? So they was gonna come out on the streets and grab you by your throat and take you up in that school
and drag mom and daddy to court.
And drag mom and daddy
answer for why you weren't going.
Why you weren't going to school, baby?
Yes. And there was such an outcry from, I'm gonna just say, the adult community about holding parents responsible for children not showing up to school. I can't control that boy. I dropped him off at school. I didn't know he didn't go in the building. I didn't know he was going to cut class. I got to go to work. I'm a single parent. I can't. Okay, we got all that going on. So they took the truancy law off the books in Maryland. Now we got these things called pupil personnel workers.
What are those?
They sound like the blind-eyed, purple-eyed, green-eyed, purple people that you think about. Yeah. But yeah, every school system now in Maryland has pupil personnel workers. And so when your child doesn't show up for school after so many days and you don't send in a note and say your baby was sick, or, they don't know why the child didn't come to school, they send officials from the school system to your house to
knock on
ask questions. There's all these wraparound services. We keep wrapping in the school. And that's crazy. Because my concern with that is, and this has happened, because I've talked to a couple of them, you go to the wrong house, They've been cussed out.
Mm-hmm.
They've been threatened.
Punched in the
They,
face.
yeah, they've been told, get off my property. That ain't none of your
Or I'ma
business.
shoot you.
We just created a
Yeah,
mess.
we just created a mess and got them for them pupil, whatever you just called them, got their ass
Look,
hit at the wrong house.
pupil personnel workers,
Pupil person as the PPPs.
PPP, and they
Y'all,
look.
just like the PPP loans ain't good. The PPPs, y'all better. What I'm telling you, do y'all have some? Do they have insurance for the PPP?
Look, they government employees.
Or do they got to sign a waiver?
Look, they government employees. But this is the problem with the pupil personnel workers. They don't have arrest authority. See, before when we had the truancy law on the books, school take the paperwork down to the social services office. Social worker look at it. Social worker try to get in touch with the parents. Social worker don't get no answer. Then it go to the police department.
Right.
The police swear out the warrant for arrest. Police got the badge. Police got the gun. Police got the handcuffs. Police arrest you behind. Take you down to the courthouse. You got to answer to the judge.
That's just like the security man with the flashlight going to knock on the
crowd. Yeah, all that gone now. All that gone. That's pretty much what it is. Anybody in there?
Because I've been looking for me a little part-time job, and I know PPP won't be one of them.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Look, I'm just telling y'all that's what it is now. We get and all 27 school systems in the state of Maryland has pupil personnel workers who. Everything okay? Look, during COVID, they was out with the mask on. Your baby didn't show up for the virtual school.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's what they do. Yes, pupil personnel workers. So we don't have truancy in Maryland anymore, just so y'all know. Now I'm not giving y'all an excuse not to make these babies go to school. They need to be educated.
I got the pupil personnel workers.
But I just need y'all to understand, parents are no longer held accountable the way they used to be under the truancy laws in the state of Maryland when the babies don't go to school. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so that's why we have that's why we got the stuff going on that we got going on.
That's what we got going on. What we got going on.
And they're socially promoting them, but I'm saying, like, seriously, they just kicking them on out. Look, you 12, you 15, and you're supposed to be in this 9th grade for too long, so you're going to go on and we're going to go and get you out of here.
And look, and as much as the stigma, we don't like the stigma. I'm just going to say it. But the other thing I have to say to parents is this. Look, if the school says they want to evaluate your baby for disability, allow them to evaluate your baby for disability. Our children are being born now with conditions that we didn't have in the 70s and the 80s. I remember when it was first attention deficit disorder came on the scene. And everybody talked about the Ritalin. And the Ritalin got a bad name. And please don't get me wrong, because Ritalin was some messed up stuff. You got babies with lockjaw. Yeah. Exactly, You got babies sitting in the classroom like zombies. Yeah, they like drooling out the side of their mouth. Just because they're not jumping from chair to chair.
Crazy as they was,
exactly.
They got on it.
Doesn't mean they're learning anything. So I understood the problems, the backlash with the whole Ritalin during the ADD era. Now we've changed it from attention deficit disorder.
The parents taking it to get high.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Okay.
Let's not even go there.
Yeah.
You don't want to go there.
The parents taking the Ritalin to get high off of it.
Yeah, we moved from the ADD era to now it's the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You don't hear them talking about using Ritalin, but they still use some medication to help the children. There are other social disorders, emotional disorders, educational disorders, and these are all scientifically verified disorders. And we call it the DSM-4. You got to either be a lawyer or a mental health provider to understand what that is.
What is it on?
It's literally, it's a huge book that has all of the medically recognized mental diagnoses in it.
Okay.
And they don't mean you're crazy. You're not necessarily crazy, but those diagnoses basically say you need a little bit of help,
Help.
whether it's through medicine, maybe it's just through a little bit more patience.
Right.
For a child in school, it may mean instead of that 30-minute lunch break where they eat for 15 minutes and get 15 minutes to run outside, your baby might actually get 30 minutes to run around outside because they need that to cope in the educational environment. And I'm gonna say this to my people, my family. I know I don't always look black, but yeah, y'all, I'm black. And we don't like to say my child's got a handicap.
My child's got a handicap. Yeah. We sure don't.
We don't like to admit
No,
that
we
my
don't.
child has a disability.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell y'all something. Um, Time out for all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time out for all that.
Mess these babies up
We've
with
got
something where they could have been fixed if you just first got early.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been addressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then when your child come out dumb as a doorknob, got a high school diploma, can't get a job, and they're laying on your couch, you mad.
You mad.
Because the school didn't do what it's supposed to do. Well, when the school came to you and said, we need to evaluate your baby, you refused to give consent.
And you cussed them out and everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you tied the school's hands.
That's right.
So now what the hell we gonna do? Excuse my friend. What the hell we gonna do?
That's right.
So I need my parents now. And you know when your baby's off the chain.
Yeah.
Let's just keep this thing here real.
That's why they send them to school every goddamn day and over somebody else's house to have them sitting on the porch and everything else.
Now for a new mama, I'm gonna give it to you. You might not understand the phases that our babies go through as they're growing up. For a new mama, you might not see it. But if grandmama see it and say you might want to have that baby checked out because that boy something ain't right, take the baby to the doctor, have the baby checked out.
Exactly. That's all.
Don't get mad at grandmama. Just go and have that baby checked out.
And talking about she picking sides and she showing favoritism.
Right.
And that shit. No, because my grandson, they tried to give him some type of medical diagnosis for just showing his ass. You know what I'm saying? And his mother was like, "No, you okay? No, okay. You might have a word for it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna tell you what the word. You talking about? You ain't putting him on no medicine or nothing. It's just him showing his ass. But you got cock-a-lock or whatever the shit you saying. Look, come on now,
mama. You know the difference when your baby showing his ass, and when your baby just
something wrong with him,
If your baby known in the neighborhood to be the one to run down everybody's dog and kill them, and they enjoy that, that ain't just showing his ass.
That ain't just showing his ass. No,
that's a pathological, psychological disorder, sociological
disorder.
We need to.
But when
to
they
address
just talking back or something,
if he out there catching lightning bugs in the jaw. And didn't understand he need to put the hole in the jaw so the bug gets some air and the bugs just die. That's totally different. That's different. That's right. Hell, I was in the country running, catching the lightning bugs in the jaw because I was intrigued by the lightning bugs.
That's right.
And so
taking granddaddy and putting it for the earring.
That ain't what I'm talking about.
Okay, good.
Granddaddy said put a hole in the jaw. Put the hole in the jaw so the lightning bug can breathe, and then at night he'll light up in your room. Wow, how he do that? Then I had to go read the book and learn how he do that because granddad couldn't tell me how he do that. If the little boy out there playing with the caterpillars, that's normal. That's normal. The little girl don't want to touch the spider. That's normal. I'm telling you, I got a son and a daughter, been there, done that. That's normal.
Right.
But if you got the baby that's chasing the stray cats because he want to hang them from the tree and he think that's fun,
or taking them and spinning them around by the tail and throwing them.
That ain't normal.
Off. Yeah.
That ain't normal.
Okay, I know.
If
I'm
you,
telling you, we had some at Berry Farms that used to do that.
Okay? Yeah, that's that. Nah, we need to have a discussion.
Yeah.
The first time you catch him doing it, you sit down, you talk to him, tell that ain't right. You don't do that. He keep doing it. Ooh.
Okay, no, he gonna move to another thing.
Yeah.
You know how when they showed he was out there and the father had got the roadkill from under the house or something, and then the next thing you know what I'm saying? Look at him. Like ain't nobody addressed that.
Right.
Nobody addressed that issue.
We got to start dealing with it,
Mhm.
because what is happening is we're not dealing with those issues when our babies are young.
When they go.
And then they get older and it grows
Mhm.
and they want to do more
Mhm.
because they need that excitement for some reason.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they run into it with the cops.
Mhm.
Oh, God help us all. They run into the wrong person who
Yeah.
got the concealed carry
Carry
permit
permit,
and that gun
yeah.
in their pocket.
Mhm.
And now you're mad and you want to charge somebody with wrongful death. But you knew that baby was,
You knew that baby was off the chain.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to, and let me tell you, good lawyers, good
Mhm.
lawyers go digging
Mhm.
because they don't want their clients to have to pay.
No. So they gonna dig down
They're
into
going
the
to dig deep.
of your soul.
They're going to dig deep.
Okay, and they're gonna dig out all your shit, even the
And,
stuff your grandmother did, your
and
great great grandmother
right.
back in slavery.
And you
Okay.
think you embarrassed. You think you embarrassed because the baby
Mhm.
got shot. You ain't seen embarrassment till you sitting in the courtroom and you on the stand and the lawyer pull out that medical record and say, did little Jimmy John told the doctor that he killed 5 dogs?
Mhm.
And what'd you do about that?
And what you do about that? Exactly. Mhm. That's right.
Because lawyers will do that.
Mhm.
Lawyers will do that.
They do it now every day. They do it now every day. We was just talking about that, how the victims is like, yeah, they dig down now. They don't care if that man had been shot, because they gonna dig down at the crevices of the cracks of his
Yes,
soul.
there
Mhm.
are some ancient, I call them ancient axioms in law, and you don't hear people talk about them anymore. But one of them is you got to come into the court with clean hands.
Mhm.
Clean hands.
Clean hands.
So if you got unclean hands, uh, that dirt gonna come back to haunt you.
Good God Almighty.
So, and when you start talking wrongful death cases, it stuff comes out
Yeah.
because the price tag on that is so high.
Yeah. Yeah. They
As a
ain't gonna just be
lawyer,
giving you that money.
yes,
Mhm.
it's so high.
Yeah.
If I can somehow get out of paying you, and remember I told you now in Maryland, Virginia, and DC, if you contributed at all to your
Mhm.
death, the recovery is zero.
It's zero. Mhm.
In other states, they have what they call comparative negligence.
Mhm.
So the jury gets to say, okay, well, the person who actually killed him is 50% in the wrong, and they in the 50% of the wrong. And while the damages might be $50 million, you can only get 25 million because you partly responsible.
Right.
And they've got to modify the rules on that version of the law. But no, Maryland, DC, and Virginia say if you contributed to your death 1%, 1 centilla of a percent, you get zero, nada,
Mm-mm.
nothing, goose egg. So when you start talking about wrongful death actions, you might want to run through your head and say,
Mhm.
was there anything about little Jimmy?
I need to guess. Yes.
Was there anything about Becky
Mhm.
that might be used to say
Use against me in the court of law. Okay.
she helped to cause her own
Mm.
demise?
Mm.
Because if anything about Jimmy or Becky comes out in that courthouse, oops, there goes your recovery. And your lawyer gonna send you a bill. Might not be able to pay him for his time, but I promise you he gonna have a whole lot of expenses. And you got to write that check
Mm.
because it costs.
As they cause.
It costs to get documents to prove a case. It costs to get sworn testimony before you get in the courthouse to prove a case.
Mhm.
It costs. They got to pay the paralegals to
Mhm.
type up the paperwork and take it to the courthouse. Sometimes we have to hire private investigators
Right.
to do the background work.
Mhm.
Those are expenses
And dig
that you
down in the
still have to
crevices of
pay.
your life.
Exactly. Those expenses that you still gonna pay,
Mhm.
even if you don't recover a dime.
Even if you don't recover a dime. Yeah. Yeah.
Because your lawyer had to fork that money out of their pocket.
Pocket. Mhm.
And they want their money back.
They want it back. Mhm.
So don't think just because your person got murdered
Yeah. and it sounds good to you that
that you're gonna recover.
that you're gonna recover.
It's not as
Mhm.
easy as you think, and it's never a slam dunk.
It's never a slam dunk. Good God Almighty, Tanya. I swear you have opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff because I hear people all the time, being a missing and murder advocate, this is the type of stuff that I deal with. I hear wrongful death
Mhm.
being mentioned all of the time. People need to know the statute of limitations. If
Mhm.
if there's statute of
3 years from the
yeah,
date of
they
death.
need to know if it's even if what they are going through even qualifies
Right.
as a wrongful death.
Right. And it may be in
Mm-hmm.
layman's terms, in
Yeah.
plain English, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It
But
was
in the
it was
law,
untimely. They
mm-hmm.
shouldn't have died when they died. They
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have died because they got shot by the gun. They
That's
shouldn't have
right.
died because they was in that car accident. Because the laws of nature says, I think right now we live into about 77, 78
Mm-hmm.
years old before our bodies just give out.
Right.
If they don't have any illnesses that will take them out earlier than that, then yeah, even my 10-year-old daughter knows the promise.
Mm-hmm.
The promise is 77 years
Right.
in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
if you Bible believing Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Even my daughter knows that limit. So we expect to live that long.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens to take us out before then. It's tragic. It's
Right.
tragic.
It's
And
tragic.
please don't think that I don't hurt for you. I have
Mm-hmm.
all the empathy in the
In the
world.
world.
And
Mm-hmm.
I wish condolences on anybody who's had to suffer through a traumatic death of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to go through that.
Nobody want to go through
And
that.
I
Yeah.
wish we all get to live that long life. I mean, people die 90 years old. It's traumatic
Mm-hmm.
for some of us. We don't
Yeah.
want to let go. But
My
before
grandfather
you,
died at 92.
yeah, before you start
Mm-hmm.
running to the courthouse thinking you about to get rich,
Mm-hmm. Back up and get you some legal advice.
slow it down. Slow
Mm-hmm.
it down.
That's right.
Slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
And if one lawyer tells you, nope, don't think this is going to be a good case, I tell you, go try another one.
Mm-hmm.
If the second lawyer said, I ain't too sure about this, you can try another one. By the
Mm-hmm.
time you get to number 3, I hope the third lawyer is willing to break it down for you in such a way that you can understand. It's not that we don't want to advocate on your behalf.
Right.
It's not that we don't feel your pain. But the School of Economics says this is not the case to
This is
take.
not the case to take. That's right. Mm-hmm.
This is not the case to take.
Mm-mm-mm. I have been, because we talking about law today. I had we've been talking about this mental health situation in
Mm-hmm.
Prince George's County before we get up out of here.
Oh, Lord.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
a crisis.
From my understanding, they took $40 million
Yes.
from our police department out here in Prince George's County
Yes.
that was supposed to have went into the mental health situation.
Yes.
So now we got this new hospital they done took and put that $40 million into 16 beds when we had a whole goddamn hospital 5th floor that was dedicated in the old hospital to mental illness.
Yes.
That don't even sound right.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a hot topic when we were campaigning last summer. I'm gonna say this. First of all, we all got mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's day-to-day living causes stress.
That's right.
Mental health is just another part of our health profile, like our
Mm-hmm.
physical health,
That's
our
right.
dental health,
Health.
our
Mm-hmm.
vision,
Vision. Yeah.
our hearing, our
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
But we've not focused on taking care of the emotions and the mind.
Right.
We don't focus on taking care of our souls
Mm-hmm.
because that's what your soul is.
That's
It's your
right.
mind and your emotions.
Emotions. Right.
So, what we're seeing now is the culmination of generations
Mm-hmm.
of trauma, and stress
Mm-hmm.
on all of us.
On all of us, yeah.
And for those of us who do not know how to calm ourselves, we react. We
Mm-hmm.
don't respond. We react.
We react,
We
right.
act out
Mm-hmm.
about the trauma we're now experiencing because it triggers something in us from trauma from the past. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's road rage, whether you cussing somebody out because they cut you in the line at the grocery
Mm-hmm.
store, whether it's you mad at your mom and daddy because they didn't buy you them shoes that you wanted
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and you now slashing, slicing, and dicing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you've been a victim of abuse, child
Mm-hmm.
abuse, adult
All
abuse,
abuse, right.
any kind form of abuse, and if you never got mental health treatment for it,
Mm-hmm.
you're still carrying those scars.
Right.
Mental illness is different. It's different. Mental illness, sometimes we're born with it.
Mm-hmm.
Mental illness comes in because we don't take care of our
Of
mental
mental
health
health, yeah.
and we snap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mental illness comes in when trauma is so
Hard.
horrible
Mm-hmm.
on us. So our body does things to protect us
Mm-hmm.
from reliving the trauma we've experienced.
Yeah.
I'm talking about dissociative disorders,
Mm-hmm.
multiple personality disorders.
Disorders, yeah.
Those are mental illnesses
Mm-hmm.
that have to be treated,
Narcissism.
mhm, that have to be
Mm-hmm.
treated by not psychologists, but psychiatrists
Right.
who are medical doctors who can also prescribe medications.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it requires you to go into a facility. And let's talk about our 16 beds. That's a facility.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't enough.
It's not. Because it's qualifications to even see in old Prince George's County Hospital. If you go in there and you need an evaluation, you didn't have to be brought in there by the police.
Correct.
You didn't have to be,
You could
there were
check
parents.
yourself
Yeah, you could
in.
check yourself in there. Yeah, you sure could.
Check
Yeah,
yourself in.
because I know people that did it.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
The 16 beds now that we have in our hospital over in Largo is basically on reserve for the police to bring in people that they encounter through either 911 calls on the street who are obviously having a mental break, and jail is
Mm-hmm.
not the answer. So instead of carting them off to the jailhouse, they take them over to the hospital for
Mm-hmm.
a 72-hour hold and an evaluation. 16 is about all you need for the police.
Mm-hmm.
And most hospitals who offer mental health treatment, they have a whole
They
floor
have a whole floor like they
dedicated to
did.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And because the mental illnesses vary and they're wide
Yeah.
ranging, those floors have special security. So you can't just walk in and walk out. You
Mm-hmm.
got to have a pass to get in. You got to be on a list of people to visit somebody in the psych ward.
Right.
Um, we don't have that anymore in Prince George's County.
No.
So if my child has a mental health breakdown, I can't walk my baby into Southern Maryland Hospital over in Clinton or even to Fort Washington Hospital and say my baby's having a mental health break. I need to sign him in for a 72-hour evaluation. We don't have that anymore. You'd have to go to Virginia, Baltimore, um, DC to get
Mm-hmm.
that.
To get it. Yeah.
So where everybody applauded the 16 beds, and I kept saying that ain't enough,
Mm-hmm.
that was why. It's not enough. And I should not have to hold my child at home until they get to the point where I got to call 911
Right.
to have the police to escort my baby over to one of them 16 beds
It's right.
for a 72-hour hold.
Mm-mm-mm.
Because now you're just exacerbating the problem. Because you
Ooh.
take someone who already has a mental health issue, may not be an illness, but they got a mental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add the embarrassment of throwing them in the back of a police car
Oh,
and
yeah.
putting them in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes against their
It's
will.
just gonna make them worse.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you lock them down in a room for 72
Yeah.
hours. And sometimes they're medicated.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they aren't.
Yeah.
If they don't consent to the evaluation, you get nothing out of it except you done jailed to somebody for 72 hours.
2 hours. Yeah.
I'm going to just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You just took somebody's freedom for 72 hours. And what did you get out of it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather have a hospital with a ward,
Mm-hmm.
and a ward usually has between 25 to 50
50
beds,
beds.
depending
Mm-hmm.
upon the size of your hospital,
Mm-hmm.
with a ward on it. And I can then walk my family member in and say, my family member is having a mental health breakdown. We need an evaluation.
We need an evaluation. Yeah.
Because that now puts the family in control. That puts the patient in control, not the police,
Not the police.
not the
Good God
county,
Almighty.
not judges,
Mm-hmm.
not the state. That's what we need. We don't have that.
Don't have it. Yeah.
So it didn't, that $40 million, great, didn't go far enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just about the criminally insane. We need to deal with people who are not criminals.
That's right.
We need to give our citizens an option who may not be insane.
Mm-hmm.
I got some girlfriends. I ain't gonna call y'all names. Y'all know who y'all. If y'all watching, I love y'all. They'll call me
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Girl, I'm about to check my damn self in. I need a minute." Okay, okay. Literally, they'll call me, "Girl, if you don't hear from me in a week, it's because I done checked myself
I
in.
didn't check myself
I
in.
need a minute."
Oh my goodness.
I got some girlfriends who do this,
Mm-hmm.
but we understand each other.
Understand.
I don't check myself in, and I'm gonna go and get in trouble because I'm gonna use the phrase again. I go lay myself on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know psychotherapists and mental health
Mm-hmm.
professionals don't like that phrase anymore because they say it comes with a stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no stigma here.
No.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a problem going to see a counselor
Mm-hmm.
to say, look, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. I need to talk this out with somebody.
Yeah.
Because when you hold it all in, it's destructive.
I'm back in counseling right now.
It's
Back in
destructive.
therapy right now from coming out of a relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
From coming out of a relationship and wanting to heal
Mm-hmm.
so that I won't take this mess that I done been through into the new relationship.
Right.
Nobody wants to do that. I
Right.
tell women all the time, you know, come March, we're going to be exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to be exploring what healthy relationships look like, what, you know, how it is dealing with a
Yep.
narcissist, you know, and the fact that you need to get some help from
Yep.
that. You need to get some help after you're coming out of that, because if you don't,
Yes.
you're in a bad situation.
Look, I tell you this, and I know we got to close out because we're about at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the show. Lawyers have the highest rate
Mm-hmm.
of drug abuse and alcohol abuse. We run in neck and neck with doctors
Wow.
because what we do is so stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, in a sense, we have somebody's life in our hands.
Right.
That's heavy. And I tell people, and this is a true story, I walked away from the courtroom for years because every time I finished a trial, I literally would have to sit down for about an hour and just
Mm-hmm.
cry
And just cry. Yeah.
because the stress was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're walking around for months
Mm-hmm.
preparing
Preparing
for
for
this
this.
trial.
Yeah.
And when it's over, you
Mm-hmm.
got to let it go.
You gotta let it go.
No matter how the trial came out,
Mm-hmm.
I had clients who went to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I had clients who didn't go to jail.
Right.
I had clients who won their cases because I
Mm-hmm.
don't win anything. I
Right.
tell people I never won a case, never
Mm-hmm.
lost a case.
Right.
My client won a loss because it was
Right.
their life that was affected, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom will tell you, before I got married, I would call my mother and she would have to listen to me on the phone cry for a
Mm-hmm.
solid hour
Yeah.
and talk me out of it because I had been in that mode for so long.
For so long.
And the sad part about it is once I cried that case out, hell, I had to go get ready for the
That's
next.
how I felt, that's how I feel being an advocate with these cases. I used to get so consumed into these cases and be feeling so bad. And I'm not going to say that I feel just as bad as the parent, but trust and believe me, I'm in a bad place because this has become my responsibility to try to get these families help.
Yep.
I take that serious.
Yep.
So of course I'm going to be feeling some kind of way. And I had to learn how to separate myself from that, even though it's still hard.
Yes.
I haven't been on a vacation in years.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't just sat down and just walked away from this thing. But I plan on doing that this year because it has been very frustrating.
Yes.
Yes, it has.
And for most of us, we don't know how to do
we
that.
don't know how to do it. Yeah.
And so I encourage everybody, check your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I check my mental health just like I check my physical health.
Right. Yeah.
Because what your body doesn't do, your mind will.
That's right, y'all. Y'all heard that? We gonna have you back next week. You coming back next week?
Yeah,
I
I owe you 2 times a month, so
Yeah.
I'll be back.
So, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. TikTok, thank y'all so much. I love y'all. Continue to share these stories. Hope these families get closure on these cases. Black History Month is coming up. I think we got one more show for this month, right? I think
The 31st.
The 31st is the last show of the month, but Black History Month is coming up. It's going to be off the chain, y'all. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, being an advocate, we talk about all of these bad things all the time. It's always good to bring some joy on this platform, y'all.
Absolutely.
So we will both see y'all next week, 31st, last show of the month. Okay. I love y'all. Y'all stay safe out there.